I wasn't supposed to come home early. That's what she said to me, Savannah, my best friend since college, while she was still tangled in my Egyptian cotton sheets, the ones I'd picked out myself at Bloomingdale's 3 years ago. The ones I washed every Sunday morning while Max slept in. You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow. Not I'm sorry. Not oh God, Brielle. Just that. Like I'd messed up the schedule. My flight from Chicago landed 2 hours early. I'd texted Max from O'Hare, no response, but that wasn't unusual. He was probably gaming with his headphones on, or watching some true crime documentary he'd rewind 5 times because he wasn't actually paying attention. I took an Uber straight home to our brownstone in Park Slope. 43 minutes in traffic on the BQE, and all I could think about was taking off my bra and opening a bottle of that Pinot Grigio we'd been saving. I used my key. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV sounds from the living room, no music from the kitchen, just silence. The kind that makes your skin prickle. I climbed the stairs 14 steps, I'd counted them 1,000 times, and I could hear it before I reached the landing. Breathing. His breathing. And hers. I should have turned around. I should have walked back down those 14 steps, out the front door, and never looked back. But you know what they say about train wrecks. You can't look away. I pushed open the bedroom door. There are moments in your life that you'll remember in snapshots. Perfect, terrible clarity. This was one of them. Max, my husband of 7 years, was on top of her, half-dressed, his shirt still on, bunched up around his shoulders, her red nails digging into his back. Savannah. Savannah. The woman who'd been my maid of honor. Who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress at Kleinfeld. Who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning last Thanksgiving. Who'd cried with me when we found out I'd miscarried 2 years ago. Max barely even flinched when he saw me. He just stopped. Rolled his eyes. Rolled his eyes. Jesus, Bree. You couldn't knock? I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My overnight bag slipped from my shoulder and hit the hardwood floor with a thud that echoed through the room. Savannah sat up slowly, pulling the sheet around herself like she was at a goddamn spa. Her blonde hair was a mess. My husband's hands had been in that hair, and she had the nerve, the absolute nerve, to look annoyed. You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow, she said, like I'd interrupted book club. Something inside me snapped. I don't remember crossing the room. I don't remember the decision. But my hand connected with her face, a sharp, ringing slap that left my palm stinging and her cheek blooming red. It felt good. For exactly 2 seconds it felt good. Then Max moved. He was off the bed faster than I'd seen him move in years. His hand clamped around my wrist like a vice, fingers digging into bone. What the fuck do you think you're doing? His voice was low. Deadly. Get off me. He twisted. My arm bent at an angle that arms aren't supposed to bend. I felt the pressure first, this building, crushing sensation in my hand, and then I heard it. Crack. The sound was wet and wrong and loud, like stepping on a thick tree branch in the woods. I screamed. The pain was white-hot, electric, shooting up my arm and exploding behind my eyes. My knees buckled. I would have hit the floor if Max wasn't still holding me up by my broken wrist. You don't get to embarrass me, he hissed, his face inches from mine. His breath smelled like her perfume, not in my own house. His house. The house my father had helped us with the down payment on. The house where I'd planted tulips in the backyard every spring. The house where I'd thought we'd raise children. His house. My hand was dangling wrong, limp. The wrist bent like a snapped doll's arm. I couldn't stop screaming. Max grabbed a fistful of my hair that I'd just had highlighted at the salon on 5th Avenue for $300, and dragged me toward the door. My feet scrambled on the floor, trying to find purchase, but he was stronger. He'd always been stronger. He threw me into the hallway. I hit the wall opposite our bedroom, my broken hand smashing against the plaster. Fresh agony tore through me. I slid down to the floor, cradling my wrist against my chest. The bedroom door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I sat there on the hallway floor, the hallway I'd painted sage green last summer, staring at my hand. It didn't look like my hand anymore. It looked like something from a medical textbook. Something wrong. From inside the bedroom, I heard them laughing. Quiet at first. Then louder. Savannah's high-pitched giggle. The one I used to think was cute. And Max's low chuckle. The one I used to think was sexy. They were laughing. I looked down at my hand again. My wedding ring was still there, digging into the swelling flesh. And that's when I knew. I wasn't married to a cheater. I wasn't married to a liar. I was married to something so much worse. I was married to a man who could break my bones and not even have the decency to stop laughing. That was the night everything changed. That was the night I made a phone call. That was the night I stopped being the woman who took it and became the woman who ended it. I stayed on that floor for what felt like hours. Maybe it was only minutes. Time does that when you're in shock. It stretches and contracts like a living thing. The hallway was cold. I could feel the draft coming from under the bedroom door. The same door I used to knock on softly when Max was working late, carrying a mug of chamomile tea because he'd complained about headaches. That smell, chamomile, it pulled me back. Back to before. I met Max at Mount Sinai. I was doing my nursing rotation in the ER, third year, running on 4 hours of sleep and black coffee. He'd come in with his business partner who'd sliced his hand open on a broken beer bottle at some startup launch party in Williamsburg. Max had been the one holding the towel, cracking jokes to keep his friend calm, thanking me 3 times for being so gentle with the stitches even though I wasn't the one doing them. He'd asked for my number before they left. Just in case I need medical advice, he'd said, that crooked smile that made my stomach flip. I should have known then. Men who are that charming usually are. But I was 24 and stupid, and so tired of being the responsible one. My whole life had been about being responsible, putting myself through nursing school, sending money home to my parents in Queens, working doubles to avoid student loans. Max felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. He felt like fun. We got married 2 years later, at a small venue in Brooklyn Bridge Park. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes, and Max had looked at me like I was the only person in the world. "I'm the luckiest man alive," he'd whispered when we said our vows. I believed him. God, I believed him. The first few years were good. We lived in a cramped 1-bedroom in Astoria, and I'd work the night shift at the hospital while Max built his marketing agency from our living room. I'd come home at 7 in the morning to find him passed out on the couch, laptop still open, empty coffee cups forming a small city on our coffee table. I'd cover him with a blanket, make breakfast, let him sleep. When his agency started hemorrhaging money in year 3, I picked up extra shifts, ICU, ER, wherever they needed me. 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. My feet ached so badly I'd soak them in Epsom salt every night, but I never told Max. He was stressed enough. I paid off his business loan, $43,000, without telling him where the money came from. Let him think it was a miracle. Let him think he'd finally made it. My mother had warned me, once. We were sitting in her kitchen in Sunnyside, folding laundry, and she'd said it so quietly I almost missed it. "Baby, never love a man more than he loves peace." I didn't understand then. I thought love was supposed to be big, all-consuming, the kind that made you give everything. I was good at giving. When Savannah's marriage imploded 3 years ago, I was the one who held her while she cried. I was the one who told her she could stay with us as long as she needed. 2 months she lived on our couch in Park Slope. 2 months I made her coffee every morning, listened to her talk about her ex-husband, assured her she'd be okay. Max had complained once, "She's been here forever, Bree." "She's my best friend," I'd said. "Where else is she supposed to go?" He'd shrugged. Let it drop. I thought that meant he understood loyalty. Turns out he was just biding his time. I pressed my good hand against the hardwood floor, the floor Max and I had refinished ourselves one weekend, both of us covered in sawdust, laughing about how we had no idea what we were doing. I'd sanded my fingers raw, and he'd kissed each one. "We're building something," he'd said. "You and me. We're building a whole life." The bedroom door was still closed, still locked. I could hear the faint murmur of voices inside, low, intimate. How long had this been going on? How many times had I worked a double while they were here, in my bed, in my home? How many times had Savannah texted me, "Miss you, babe," while she was sleeping with my husband? My broken hand throbbed. Each heartbeat sent a fresh wave of pain up my arm. I looked down at my wedding ring, white gold, simple band. I'd picked it out myself because Max said he didn't know anything about jewelry. It had cost $800, money I'd saved from 3 months of overtime. $800 for a promise that was already broken. If you've ever given everything to someone who later turned away, you'll understand this part. That moment when you realize your love was never a bridge, it was a one-way street, and you've been walking it alone for years. I pulled myself up using the wall. My legs shook, my hands screamed. But something else was happening inside me. Something cold, Something clear. Something that felt a lot like the end of mercy. The bedroom door flew open. Not gently. Not with hesitation. It swung wide and slammed against the wall hard enough to rattle the framed photo of our wedding day hanging in the hallway. Max stood in the doorway, fully dressed now, button-down shirt tucked in, jeans, barefoot, like he'd just gotten home from brunch. Like the last 20 minutes hadn't happened. Behind him, Savannah leaned against the dresser, my dresser wearing my silk robe. The cream-colored one my mother had given me last Christmas. It was too short on her. I could see her thighs. Max looked down at me on the floor. No guilt, no shame, just impatience. "Get up," he said. I tried. My legs were weak, shaking. My broken hand hung useless at my side, swollen now, turning purple. I got halfway to my feet before the pain knocked me back down. He didn't reach to help me. "You need to sign divorce papers," Max said. Flat. Emotionless. Like he was telling me to sign for a package. "I'm filing Monday. Your lawyer should have them by Wednesday." "Me lavier?" I didn't have a lawyer. "What are you?" My voice cracked. "Max, what are you talking about?" He sighed. Actually sighed. Like I was boring him. "Come on, Brielle, don't make this harder than it needs to be. This," he gestured vaguely between us, "it's been over for a while, you know that." I didn't. The words stuck in my throat. "You broke my hand. You assaulted Savannah," he said, like we were discussing traffic violations. In front of a witness. "You're lucky I don't press charges." Savannah smiled. Actually smiled. "It's really for the best," she said, her voice syrupy. "You two haven't been happy in years." Years? My head was spinning. My hand was screaming. Nothing made sense. "The house," Max continued, pulling his phone from his pocket, scrolling through something. "You're not getting it. Your name's already off the deed." The world tilted. "That's not," I shook my head. "That's not possible. My father helped us. Co-signed the loan, didn't own the property." Max glanced up. "I had our lawyer handle the paperwork last month. You signed off on the transfer." "I never signed anything." "Actually, you did." He turned his phone toward me. There was a document on the screen. Legal jargon I couldn't focus on. And at the bottom, my signature. Digital. The one I used for the hospital's electronic record system. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter how." Max pocketed his phone. "What matters is, it's done. The house is mine. The savings account? Transferred. Your investment portfolio? Already liquidated. I've been planning this for 6 months, Bree. You really think I'd be this sloppy?" 6 months. 6 months ago, I'd thrown him a surprise birthday party, invited 30 people to our backyard, made his favorite meal, braised short ribs that took me 8 hours to prepare. He'd kissed me in front of everyone and said, "Best wife in the world." 6 months. Savannah stepped forward, tightening the belt on my robe. "Max's company is about to explode," she said. "My family's investing $2 million. But they're very traditional. They won't work with a man who's married to someone so common." Common. I stared at her. This woman who'd cried in my arms, who I'd lent money to when her credit cards maxed out, who I'd defended to other friends when they called her dramatic. Common. "My parents are very particular about family image," Savannah continued, examining her nails. "They want Max to marry into the right kind of family, someone who understands business, legacy, real wealth. Not someone whose father drives a plumbing van?" Max crouched down to my level. His face was so close I could see the razor burn on his neck, the cologne I'd bought him for our anniversary. "This house, this life." He smiled. It was a terrible smile. "Empty. You were just the stepping stone, babe. The nurse who could pay my bills while I built something real. But I don't need you anymore. I've got something better now." Something inside my chest cracked. Not my ribs, something deeper. "And you're too soft to fight back," Savannah added. She was applying lip gloss. My lip gloss. "From my bathroom? You'll sign the papers? Move back to Queens with your parents? And probably tell everyone it was mutual. Because that's who you are. You're nice." She said nice like it was a disease. I tried to speak, tried to scream, but nothing came out. Max stood up, brushing invisible dust from his jeans. "Call whoever you want," he said. "No lawyer's going to help you. I've covered everything, and no one's coming to save you." The bedroom door closed again. Softer this time. The lock clicked. I sat there on the sage green floor I'd painted, cradling my destroyed hand, and something occurred to me. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal made you question your own worth, you're not alone. Thank you to everyone who helps me tell these stories. Your support keeps this space alive for those who still believe that truth, somehow, will always find its way. Max was wrong about one thing. Someone was coming. He just didn't know who my father was. I don't remember crawling to the bathroom. But I was there, somehow, sitting on the cold tile floor with my back pressed against the tub. The door was locked. My good hand had turned the bolt without thinking, some animal instinct to find a small space, to hide. The bathroom was white, aggressively white. I'd chosen the tiles myself at Home Depot 2 years ago, spent an entire Saturday afternoon comparing shades, dove versus linen versus pearl. Max had been bored, scrolling through his phone the whole time, but he'd smiled when I finally decided. Whatever makes you happy, babe. The tiles looked gray now in the dim light. I pulled myself up using the sink, my broken hand cradled against my chest. The mirror was unforgiving. A stranger stared back at me. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in thin black rivers. Her hair still styled from the business trip. The professional updo I'd paid $60 for was falling apart, bobby pins hanging loose. The collar of her shirt was torn. I didn't remember it tearing. And her hand. God, her hand. Purple now, swollen to almost twice its normal size. The wrist bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. The wedding ring had disappeared into the flesh, a thin line of gold barely visible beneath the swelling. I turned on the faucet. Cold water. I splashed it on my face with my good hand, trying to wash away the mascara, the evidence, the last 2 hours of my life. The water turned black in the sink. The house was so quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The other kind. The kind that makes you aware of every creak, every settling floorboard, every breath you take. Even the walls seemed to be holding their breath. Waiting. I could hear them downstairs now. Laughing. Music playing softly, something jazzy, probably the playlist Max had made for romantic evenings. The playlist I'd thought was for us. I sank back down to the floor. My phone was still in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking fingers. 3 missed calls from the hospital, probably wondering why I hadn't confirmed my shifts next week. 1 text from the dry cleaner saying my order was ready. Nothing else. I scrolled through my contacts. 47 names. Most of them, colleagues from the hospital. A few cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. And the friends, Max's friends mostly. The couples we'd done dinner parties with, gone to the Hamptons with last summer. Savannah's name was still there. Still saved with 3 heart emojis. I felt sick. I tried calling my friend Monica. We'd done nursing school together, stayed close for a few years after. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. Her voice, bright and cheerful. "Hey, can't get to the phone right now, but leave a message." I hung up. Tried my Aunt Linda next. She'd always been good in a crisis, practical, the kind of woman who showed up with casseroles and solutions. The number didn't even ring. Just 3 tones and a robotic voice. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." When had I last called her? 2 years ago? 3? I stared at my phone, scrolling slowly through the names, and a terrible realization settled over me like fog. I didn't have anyone. Max had been my whole world. Work and Max. Max and work. I'd let friendships fade. Stopped going to family dinners because Max said they were exhausting. Declined invitations because I was tired, because I was working, because Max needed me. If you've ever sat in a room so quiet it started to echo your thoughts, you'll understand this silence. Thank you to those who help keep these stories alive. Your kindness helps give voice to people who've been forgotten, who sit alone in their pain, waiting to be seen again. The bathroom tiles were freezing beneath me. I could feel the cold seeping through my jeans, into my bones. I whispered it out loud, just to hear something. "I have no one." My voice cracked on the last word. Then my thumb scrolled past a name I hadn't looked at in months, maybe longer. 1 word. Pop. No photo. No last name. Just those 3 letters. My breath stopped. I hadn't called that number in over a year, not since the last time I'd asked him to stop sending money, stop worrying, stop treating me like I needed protection. I'd told him I was fine. I had Max. I had a career. I was fine. "You don't need to save me anymore, Pop. I'm not a kid." He'd been quiet on the line. Then, "Okay, baby girl. But I'm here. Always here." I stared at the contact. My hand, the good one, hovered over the name. Downstairs, I heard Max laugh, deep and satisfied, the sound a man makes when everything is going exactly according to plan. My thumb pressed down. The phone began to ring. The phone rang twice. Then a voice I hadn't heard in over a year filled my ear, deep, steady, the kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command a room. "You finally called me, sweetheart." I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. All the words I'd been holding back, the pain, the humiliation, the loneliness, they all crashed into each other and came out as a single broken sound. "Dad." "Brielle." His voice sharpened. "What's wrong?" Not a question. A demand. "Max," I choked on his name. He broke my hand. 3 seconds of silence. The kind of silence that makes your blood run cold. The kind that feels like the air before lightning strikes. When my father spoke again, his voice was different. Colder, flatter. "Where are you?" "Home. I'm in the bathroom. Dad, he..." "Stay where you are." I heard movement in the background. Footsteps. A door slamming. "Don't open that door for anyone." "You understand me?" "Anyone." "Dad, I don't." "Where is he now?" "Downstairs. With Savannah." Another beat of silence. "That's your friend? The one who stayed with you?" "Yes." I heard him exhale slowly through his nose, a sound I remembered from childhood. The sound he made right before someone's world ended. "I'm already on my way," he said. 20 minutes. Can you stay quiet for 20 minutes? "Yes." "Good girl." Then, softer. "Nobody puts their hands on my daughter. Nobody." The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone, and for the first time since I'd walked through that bedroom door, I felt something other than pain. I felt seen. I pressed my ear against the bathroom door. The music had stopped downstairs. I could hear voices now. Max and Savannah, talking, no bragging. "Easier than I thought," Max was saying. His voice drifted up through the old vents in the floor. "She signed everything without even reading it. God, nurses are so trusting." Savannah laughed. That high, pretty laugh I used to think was charming. "What did you expect? She's been programmed to help people her whole life. She probably thought she was doing you a favor." "This part?" Max said. "Once the papers are finalized, she's got nothing. No house, no savings, no claim to the business. My lawyer already confirmed it. Where will she go?" "I don't care. Back to Queens, probably. That shitty apartment building her parents live in. She can get a job at some urgent care clinic and pretend she's still important." They both laughed. My good hand clenched into a fist. "Your parents are still okay with the timeline?" Max asked. "More than okay," Savannah said. "They're wiring the $2 million once you're officially divorced. They want the wedding by spring, somewhere upstate, maybe the Catskills. Classy. Nothing like that Brooklyn hipster nonsense you did with her." "She really thought I loved her," Max said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. 7 years. She worked herself half to death for me. Paid off my debts, covered my rent. And she never once asked for anything back. It's almost sad." "She's too loyal," Savannah said. "Too predictable. Girls like that never fight back. They just cry and forgive and move on." "Exactly," Max said, "which is why this was so easy." I closed my eyes. Not in despair. In clarity. If you've ever found truth in the quiet moments after pain, you know what this part feels like. Thank you to everyone who supports these stories. Your kindness keeps hope alive for people still finding their voice after betrayal. I heard a car pull up outside. Not one car. 3. The engines were low. Expensive. The kind that purred instead of roared. My father had arrived. And Max had no idea who was about to walk through his door. The engines cut off one by one. I heard the car doors open, close. Footsteps on the sidewalk, measured, deliberate. Not rushed, not loud, just inevitable. There comes a point when silence stops meaning defeat. It becomes preparation. I pressed my ear harder against the bathroom door. Downstairs, Max and Savannah had gone quiet. Maybe they'd heard it too, that particular kind of silence that precedes something irrevocable. The doorbell didn't ring. Someone knocked. 3 times. Firm. Patient. I heard Max's footsteps moving toward the front door. "Finally," he muttered. "Took them long enough with the Thai food." The door opened. Then nothing. No greeting. No transaction. Just a beat of absolute stillness. Can I help you? Max's voice had changed. Smaller, uncertain. A voice I didn't recognize responded. Deep, calm, professional. Dominic Russo is here to see his daughter. I think you have the wrong... We don't. Footsteps, multiple sets. Moving through my house like water finding its level. Smooth, unstoppable. I heard Max back up. Look, I don't know who you think you are. Brielle. That voice. My father's voice. I fumbled with the bathroom lock, my broken hand screaming as I tried to turn it. Finally it clicked. I pulled the door open. The hallway looked different now. Darker. Or maybe I'd just been in the bathroom too long. I could see shadows moving at the bottom of the stairs. Large men, silent men, the kind who didn't need to announce their purpose. Then my father appeared at the landing. Dominic Russo was 63 years old and looked like he could still break a man in half without raising his pulse. Silver hair swept back from a face that had seen everything and forgiven nothing. Charcoal cashmere coat, tailored perfectly. No jewelry except a watch that cost more than most people's cars. He saw me on the floor and his entire face changed. He crossed the hallway in 3 strides and knelt beside me like I was 6 years old again, like I'd fallen off my bike and scraped my knee. Baby girl. His hands cupped my face so gently I wanted to cry. His eyes dark brown, exactly like mine, traveled down to my hand. The swollen, purple, ruined hand. His jaw tightened. Who hurt you? Not a question. A targeting system locking on. I pointed toward the bedroom door with my good hand. My father stood. Turned. His voice dropped to a register I'd only heard a handful of times in my life. Bring them out. Both of them. No yelling. No mess. I just want the truth. 2 of his men moved immediately. One knocked on the bedroom door, polite, almost courteous. Sir, ma'am, please come out. Silence. Then Max's voice, thin and defensive. This is my house. You can't just... The door opened anyway. Max stood there in his bare feet, shirt still untucked, trying to look indignant and failing. Savannah hovered behind him, clutching my robe tighter around herself. My father looked at them the way you'd look at insects under glass. Downstairs, he said quietly. Living room? Now. They went. My father knelt beside me again. This time, he was listening. Tell me everything, he said, and then tell me what you want done about it. So I did. I told him about the forged signatures, the transferred assets, the house deed, Savannah's family money, the planned divorce, the deliberate, calculated destruction of everything I'd built. My father listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not a happy smile, a proud one. You're already thinking about this like chess, not checkers, he said. That's my girl. He stood, offered me his hand, the good one, and helped me to my feet. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to tell me exactly what you want. Every detail. And my people will make it happen. I took a breath. For years, I mistook generosity for love. Now, I'm learning the quiet math of self-respect. I want the forged documents exposed, I said, and my voice was steadier than I expected. I want the house back in my name. I want every dollar he stole returned with interest. I want Savannah's family to know exactly what kind of investment they're making: fraud, forgery, domestic violence. I paused. And I want them to feel exactly as powerless as they made me feel. My father nodded slowly. Victor, he said to one of his men, get our lawyer on the phone and find out everything about the Ashford family, Savannah's people. Bank accounts, business partners, investors, everything. Victor pulled out his phone immediately. My father looked back at me. You lead, he said. We follow. Downstairs, I heard Max's phone start to ring. Then again. Then again. They taught me that love meant giving. Today, I'm teaching myself that love can also mean stopping. The living room had never felt this small. Max and Savannah sat on the couch, my couch, the one I'd found at a estate sale in Cobble Hill, and reupholstered myself looking like defendants waiting for sentencing. 2 of my father's men stood by the windows. Not threatening, just present. Solid. Immovable. My father stood near the fireplace, hands clasped behind his back, perfectly still, the kind of stillness that makes people nervous. I walked down the stairs slowly. My broken hand was in a temporary splint now. One of my father's men had been a combat medic, wrapped it carefully, gently, like I was made of glass. It throbbed with every heartbeat, but the pain had become something else now. Fuel. Max looked up when he heard me. His face was pale, eyes darting between me and my father like he was trying to calculate an escape route that didn't exist. "Bree, listen," he started. My father didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at Max. Max stopped talking. I crossed the room and stood in front of them. Savannah wouldn't meet my eyes. She was picking at the hem of my robe, the one she was still wearing, pulling threads loose. "I want you to listen," I said quietly. "Just listen." I pulled my phone from my pocket with my good hand, opened the voice memo app, hit play. Max's voice filled the room. Easier than I thought. She signed everything without even reading it. God, nurses are so trusting. Savannah's laugh. "What did you expect? She's been programmed to help people her whole life." Max again. "Best part? Once the papers are finalized, she's got nothing. No house, no savings, no claim to the business." I watched Max's face drain of color. The recording continued. "Your parents are still okay with the timeline?" "More than okay. They're wiring the $2 million once you're officially divorced." She really thought I loved her. 7 years. She worked herself half to death for me, and she never once asked for anything back. It's almost sad. She's too loyal, too predictable. Girls like that never fight back. I stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. "I recorded that," I said, "about 45 minutes ago, while I was sitting on the bathroom floor with a broken hand, while you two were celebrating downstairs." Savannah's hands were shaking now. Max stood up. "That's illegal. You can't record someone without—" "New York is a one-party consent state," my father said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "She can record any conversation she's part of, and she was in the house. Her house. It's not her. It is." My father nodded to Victor, who stepped forward with an iPad. He tapped the screen twice and turned it toward Max. A document appeared. Property deed. My name. Today's date. "Forged signatures are surprisingly easy to undo," my father said, "when you have the right lawyers. And when the person who forged them is stupid enough to use the same digital signature on 17 different documents in 1 month." Max stared at the screen. "The house is back in Brielle's name," my father continued. "As of 20 minutes ago, every fraudulent transfer has been reversed. Every stolen dollar is being returned. With interest." Victor swiped to another screen. "Emails. Dozens of them. These went out 15 minutes ago," Victor said, "to Max's business partners, to his investors, to the New York Bar Association, since he used a lawyer to facilitate fraud." He swiped again. "And to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Ashford of Greenwich, Connecticut." Savannah gasped. "Your parents," I said, looking at her for the first time. "They received copies of everything. The recordings, the forged documents, the evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, along with a very detailed letter from my attorney explaining that their daughter helped orchestrate the theft of approximately $215,000 from a registered nurse who worked 70-hour weeks to support her husband." "You can't—" Savannah stood up, her voice shrill. "This is illegal. You can't just—" "So was everything you did," I said. My voice didn't shake, didn't rise. It was just true. Savannah turned to my father, desperation flooding her face. "You can't do this. My family will." "Your family," my father said, "just withdrew their investment." "I received confirmation 3 minutes ago." He checked his watch. "They've also retained a lawyer to explore whether Max defrauded them under false pretenses. Civil suit, possibly criminal." Max's knees buckled. He caught himself on the arm of the couch. "This is," his voice cracked. "Brielle, please. We can talk about this. We can—" "No," I said. One word. But it felt like the first word I'd spoken in years that actually meant something. My father gestured to his men. "Escort them out of my daughter's home." "Wait!" Max grabbed for his phone on the coffee table. "My stuff will be boxed and delivered," Victor said. "You have 72 hours to arrange pickup. After that, it's donated." 2 men stepped forward. Not roughly. Not violently. Just decisively. Max and Savannah were guided toward the front door. Outside, Rain had started. I could hear it against the windows. Soft at first, then harder. Savannah turned at the door, mascara running. "You're going to regret this." I looked at her, this woman who'd slept in my home, eaten my food, cried on my shoulder, then plotted to destroy me. "No," I said. "I really won't." The door closed. The lock clicked. And for the first time in 7 years, my house was mine again. After the verdict, silence became my favorite sound. It was the sound of justice finally breathing. I didn't follow Max and Savannah out into the rain that night. I didn't need to. My father's men handled the rest, the documentation, the legal filings, the systematic dismantling of 7 years of lies. I sat in my living room, the house finally quiet, finally mine, and watched the rain streak down the windows. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The consequences came swiftly, not because I orchestrated them, but because lies, it turns out, have a weight of their own, and eventually, that weight becomes too heavy to carry. Max's investors pulled out within 24 hours. 3 phone calls, 3 emails, all saying variations of the same thing. "We don't do business with people who commit fraud." His marketing agency, the one I'd paid for, supported, believed and collapsed by the end of the week. His business partner filed a lawsuit. Breach of fiduciary duty. Misrepresentation. The kind of legal words that end careers. I heard all this secondhand. Through my lawyer. Through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances who suddenly remembered my phone number. "Did you hear about Max Donovan?" I always knew something was off about him. "You're so much better off, Brielle." I didn't respond to most of them. What was there to say? Savannah's fall was quieter but no less complete. Her parents, the Ashfords of Greenwich, the old money family she'd leveraged as her golden ticket, cut her off entirely. No more trust fund. No more country club membership. No more summer house in the Hamptons. I heard through a former coworker that Mrs. Ashford had been mortified by the recordings. That the family reputation meant everything, and Savannah had embarrassed them beyond repair. The charity circles Savannah ran in the junior league, the museum fundraisers, the galas where she'd worn $1,000 dresses and smiled for society page photographers, they dropped her immediately. Quietly. No dramatic confrontation. Just gone. Invitations stopped coming. Her name disappeared from committee lists. I didn't need to ruin them. Their lies had already done that. 3 weeks after that night, I ran into someone who knew Savannah's ex-husband. Apparently, he'd filed for full custody of their daughter. Used my recordings as evidence of moral unfitness and conspiracy to commit fraud. His lawyer argued that anyone willing to systematically destroy a friend's life wasn't fit to raise a child. I felt something when I heard that. Not satisfaction, exactly. More like closure. Savannah had always wanted to be part of something bigger than herself. Now she was a cautionary tale. Max tried calling me once. 2 weeks after he'd been escorted out of my house, I was at the hospital finishing a shift in the ICU when his name lit up my phone screen. I stared at it for 3 rings. Then declined the call. He didn't leave a voicemail. I heard later, much later, that he'd moved back in with his mother in Staten Island, that he was working at a car dealership, that Savannah had left him the moment her parents cut financial ties. No $2 million investment, no spring wedding in the Catskills, just 2 people who'd built a relationship on greed, discovering that greed doesn't keep you warm at night. They used to whisper that I'd lost my mind, now they avoid their own reflections. I didn't drive past the dealership, didn't check his social media, didn't ask mutual friends for updates. That part of my life was over. Cleanly. Finally. My father came by the house one evening in early spring. We sat on the back porch, the one where I'd planted tulips every year, the ones that were just starting to bloom again, and drank coffee in comfortable silence. "You doing okay, baby girl?" he asked eventually. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." He nodded. Sipped his coffee. "You know, for a while there I wanted to do more, make them hurt the way they hurt you." "I know. But you were right to handle it the way you did. Truth, evidence, law." He smiled slightly. "More civilized than my generation." "More satisfying too," I said. "Violence ends quick. Consequences last." He laughed. A real laugh. The kind I remembered from childhood. Some debts don't need to be collected. Life has its own way of balancing the books. I sold the brownstone 3 months later. Couldn't live there anymore. Too many ghosts. Too many memories of a person I used to be, the woman who'd worked herself to exhaustion for a man who saw her as a stepping stone. I bought a smaller place in Astoria, close to my parents, close to the hospital, close to the life I'd had before Max, before Savannah, before I'd confused sacrifice with love. The tulips from the old house? I dug them up carefully, transplanted them to my new garden. They bloomed that first spring, bright red. Unapologetics. Just like me. After the noise fades, what's left isn't victory, it's understanding. I spent the first week after everything fell apart at my father's brownstone in Bed-Stuy, the same house I grew up in, the same kitchen where I'd done homework at the table while he cooked Sunday dinners. The same creaky stairs I'd snuck down as a teenager trying not to wake him. It felt like going backward and forward at the same time. My father didn't ask questions, didn't push. He just made space for me. Made ravioli the way he used to when I was little from scratch, the dough rolled thin, filled with ricotta and spinach, swimming in brown butter and sage, comfort in a bowl. We ate in silence that first night, the kind of silence that isn't empty, it's full of things that don't need to be said. Finally, I put down my fork. "I'm sorry I stayed away," I said. He looked up. Those dark eyes, my eyes studying me carefully. "For what?" "For choosing him over you. For not listening when you said something felt off. For making you think I didn't need you anymore." My father set down his wine glass, reached across the table and covered my good hand with his. "Baby girl, you didn't owe me perfection, you just owed me your voice and you finally used it." He squeezed gently. "That's all I ever wanted, for you to know you could call." I cried then. Not the broken, gasping kind of crying from that night on the bathroom floor. This was different. Cleaner. Like rinsing out a wound. The days passed slowly after that. I took medical leave from the hospital, went to physical therapy for my hand 3 times a week. Watched it heal, the swelling going down, the bruises fading from purple to green to yellow to gone, the bones knitting back together, stronger than before. Funny how that works. I thought about Max sometimes. About Savannah. But not the way I expected. I didn't fantasize about their suffering. Didn't refresh news sites hoping to see their names attached to scandal. I just let them go, like releasing a balloon into the sky and watching it disappear. Justice isn't about watching them fall, it's about standing again without hate. One afternoon, I was sitting on my father's stoop, drinking coffee, when a neighbor stopped by. Mrs. Chen, who'd lived 3 doors down my entire childhood. She'd baked me cookies when I graduated nursing school. "I heard what happened," she said, settling beside me with a groan. "That husband of yours?" I nodded. "You know what my mother used to say?" Mrs. Chen continued. "She'd say, 'The bamboo that bends survives the storm.' But she also said, 'Know when to stop bending or you'll break.'" She patted my knee. "You stopped bending just in time." After she left, I sat there thinking about that, about all the years I'd bent, accommodated, adjusted, made myself smaller so Max could feel bigger, worked harder so he could dream louder, given more so he wouldn't have to ask. I used to believe love meant giving everything. Now I know love also means knowing when to stop. My hand healed, 6 weeks in a cast, then another month of therapy. The doctor said I'd regain about 95% function. That the break had been clean. That I'd been lucky. Lucky. I learned to sign my name again, to hold a coffee cup, to tie my shoes, small victories that felt enormous. My father watched me practice opening and closing my fist, testing the grip strength, and one evening he said, "You're stronger than you think." My hand? "You're everything." I went back to work in the fall. The ICU welcomed me back like I'd never left. My patients didn't know what I'd been through. They just knew I was their steady hands, calm voice, someone who showed up when it mattered. It reminded me why I'd become a nurse in the first place. Not for Max, not to prove anything, but because helping people, truly helping, without expectation, was the only kind of love that never ran out. If you've ever lost yourself trying to love someone who only saw your worth in numbers, I hope my story reminds you, it's never too late to choose yourself. Thank you for keeping these stories alive. Stories where justice doesn't shout. It heals. 6 months after that night, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in Astoria. The cast was gone, my hand worked. The skyline stretched out before me, Manhattan glittering in the distance, the Queensboro Bridge lit up like a promise. I thought about everything I'd lost, the house, the marriage, the friend I'd thought I had, 7 years of my life. And then I thought about everything I'd gained. My voice, my father, my dignity, my peace. The second list was shorter, but it weighed more. I flexed my hand open, closed, open, closed. The wedding ring was long gone, sold, donated. I couldn't even remember which. But my hand looked like mine again. Felt like mine. I whispered it into the night air, to no one and everyone. If my story teaches anything, it's this. Kindness without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. A plane passed overhead. The city hummed below. Life continued messy and beautiful and indifferent to my small drama. And that was okay. Because justice had given me back my name. But peace gave me back myself. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I was free.